fuck the Electoral College. It's the Going Off podcast. Never a dull second.
Here we go. Oh. Boy, hasn't it been a few fun weeks where we weren't talking about anything political? Those were the good times. Before the end times. So, we were tossing it back and forth whether or not we were going to talk about the election. And if you would have asked me the night of, I would have been like, no, I can't. And I will say that this is a very privileged stance of mine to be, because I know a lot of people are taking this very badly, and a lot of people are very scared, and a lot of people are very afraid. But I'm just talking from my own standpoint here, in that doing a little bit better. I've heard some voices watching the Young Turks put it into perspective. But it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be very challenging. And the more and more we find out about it, the worse it seems. We got a couple months before the president-elect is to actually take office. But until then, I hope that Obama actually does some shit in his lame duck session and makes some very necessary changes.
Well, it's like it's not even that I'm afraid of Donald Trump necessarily. I'm afraid of the rhetoric that he has, and the fact that these people are now emboldened and, in fact, basically not verified, but they've been. It's sort of like, oh, you can spit vitriol and hatred and sexism and racism. You don't even need to code it anymore, and you can still win? Like, that is a bad message. That is not a message that we should... And the one or two people I have seen where, talking about where he's winning is that they're always talking about, economics. Like, economically, he's going to bring us back, and he's going to do this. And it's like, you either don't understand or are willfully ignorant to the problems that other people are going to be going through. And I think for the last 8 years, there's been this sort of because Obama was, first black president, first more liberal president, there have been more liberal people that have been speaking up for themselves, and saying like, okay, yes, let's talk about intersectionality concerning sexism and racism. Let's talk about these different problems. And that is how they were emboldened by this presidency. You know what I mean? Like, because they wanted to talk about problems that were hurting them and that were kind of keeping our country back, making us more equal. Unfortunately, with Donald Trump being getting president-elect, the problem is that it's not just that, more conservatives are just going to speak up more about their economic policies. No. More racists are speaking up about how they feel. And that is blanketed in the sort of, well, we're just taking America back for ourselves. And, to white people, that just means, we're just making the economics better. But that sort of speaks to the narrative all along that's been wrong with America, is that in those times where you thought it was great, it was horrible for other people. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so, that's what these white middle American people are missing. They're missing the black people being harassed because now, some white guy out there who might have had racist views, but, he was kind of told for the last couple of years, hey, you need to shut up. You need to shut up because that's not okay. That is not okay to talk like that. And maybe someone could have, no one is ever perfect in their mindset. People are in a constant state of flux as to whether or not they're going to be or a good person or do or say the right thing. And when you are in an environment in which you're mainly surrounded by white people, surrounded by a white male perspective, and then you have someone who verifies these things that maybe you didn't believe before, maybe they were in the back of your mind just, eating away at something, but now this person has won and he has verified that white is right and that if you hate all these other people openly, that you can still win.
I want to be Mr. Silver Lining here, because there doesn't seem to be one at all. And the silver lining or the positives or something that could possibly come of this election, it could possibly be at the shortcomings of others. So I'm just going to admit that straight up. Starting out, Trump didn't win because America is racist. Trump won because America is desperate, America is uneducated, and America is angry. Same reason, well, maybe not the uneducated part, but up till that point, same reason Bernie Sanders was so successful, because Bernie gave so many people a voice, and people they're angry with the system. They wanted it changed up. Now, as far as Trump doesn't know anything about being president. He knows as much about the policies as the people voting, and that's why they voted for him, because he related to them in the sense that they didn't know what the fuck was going on. Neither did he. They found that aspect of him attractive. So I think him being president at this very moment in American history, when feminism is on the rise, we got people like, as we're going to talk about later in this brilliant Sammus interview we got coming up, people are way more prideful and expressive about being a minority in America and the struggles that they face. You're going to have racists who will think that, my way is right, and it's like, Trump didn't win because he had a lot of racists voting for him. He won because a lot of people didn't vote. About half of America decided to sit this one out, and if they hadn't, I imagine the results would have been very different.
Also, okay, there's 2 points that I want to make. There's one point that there was a lot of voter disenfranchisement.
Yeah.
Especially in a lot of states where what's the name of it? The Voter Registration Act.
We were dealing with that a good bit in North Carolina. It was kind of the focal point of that, with you needed a voter ID and all that bullshit. And there even were some polling stations down here where even after they made it so they're like, no, you don't need one, they still had signs up saying you would need one, just to scare people away, mainly.
And that's the thing about that. Like, what's funny to me is that whenever someone fears that they'll lose, just whenever, and that was Donald Trump in this case, he was saying, oh, it's going to be rigged. You've got voter fraud. That's going to be the biggest thing. Voter fraud in which people are trying to vote twice and like all this stuff. And like they try to push that narrative because the reason why they push that narrative is because the real narrative is much more the fault and the blame on the system that we have, as opposed to voter fraud, in which you can place the blame on the common citizen. See, there are just those common citizens out there that are trying to cheat, being pushed by whatever ideal that I don't agree with. But the reality of the situation is, the system is more rigged, actually more likely in Republicans' favor, because, like you said about the voter registration problems, where people are feeling like they can't even try to vote because they're going to have to deal with this. And, oh, man, there's this thing that I should have done 6 months ago where I should have registered as a Democrat in order to do this, that, and the third. And so, like, yes, there is rigging going on, but the call's coming from inside the house. It's not like someone is just, I'm going to cheat the system by going to another state and voting. No, first of all, that would be very that would be like such a waste of time. Traveling to a completely different place just to vote again. Like, that's such a waste of time. It's so minuscule. But also on the grander scale of things like, I believe it's gerrymandering, basically, or if that's not the right term, restructuring certain counties and districts to restructuring certain districts for things to be tipped in your favor. Those are things that are happening on higher legislative levels, in which we have to look inwards to the government and what's going wrong with them to see what's the problem and how it's affecting the way the votes are turning out. But that's too complicated of a narrative, and that also involves looking at our power, looking at the power structure and deconstructing it. So what's much easier to say is those voter frauds, those people that are cheating and trying to vote twice, even though there's maybe, I don't know, there was 31 cases in the 25 that they found to be suspicious or something like that over the last 16 years and billions of votes. But at the same time, all these people who are not even thinking that they have a chance in the first place, that's the thing that's a little harder to pin down because no one's not even getting to the polling station and just sitting at home and people are just knocking on doors and being like, hey, did you vote? And they're like, no, well, because of this. You know what I mean? That's a little harder to figure out,
I'm not going to justify or talk up a Trump presidency. That's not what I'm about to do here. But what I've been chewing on and digesting over the past day is how it would have been if Hillary would have won. And me personally, I'll fully admit that I was not interested or involved in politics at all until this election. I gave Obama a pass for 8 years, to the point where I didn't know the shady shit he was doing with Social Security or the bombings or the drones. I wasn't paying attention. I let him go. I just blissfully was unaware and asked myself all the time, I'm looking at these people with their no Obama stickers or whatever, and I'm like, I just don't get how anyone can have a problem with President Obama. I would gladly take another Obama term because I wasn't paying attention. And I think if Hillary would have won, I would have been way more complacent. I think I would have not paid as much attention. I think I would have kind of rested on it a little bit and felt like, well, it could be way worse. But because we have Trump in office, we're going to have people with social issues working that much harder. We're going to have GLAAD, the Human Rights Campaign, Black Lives Matter. We're all going to be working that much harder and not let things that just kind of happen when we are asleep, when they pass things in the middle of the night because we're not exactly paying attention. We're going to be more alert. We're going to be on the offensive. And I know a lot of people are worried and a lot of people are scared, and I'm not saying they're wrong to be, but I think we're more equipped to deal with a Trump presidency than we're willing to tell ourselves right now. I think a lot of people are feeling really down on themselves, and I posted on Facebook, I said, you can feel bad, you can be afraid, you can cry, you can do all of that, but what matters is what you do next, and what matters is what you're gonna do about it. And people will shit on the concept of protesting, they'll shit on all of this, what does it really do? But honestly, doing anything right now to either be united, show unity, show support of other people, and just showing your displeasure of this, it helps in some way. And anything that helps people feel better right about now, aside from, possible physical violence or anything like that, I fully condone. I'm not a fan of the assassination jokes. That wouldn't solve anything, obviously, because we would just get Pence anyway.
Well, actually, I was going to get to my second point. My second point is that there's actually a kind of loophole that we could use. Now, I actually want to speak to your point where you said we're going to be much more vigilant because it's him. And you could say that because we had Obama, we thought, I'm sure everything's okay. We don't really need to worry about it because, and then because of that complacency, more shady shit possibly got passed.
I don't want to interrupt, but just like earlier, you said, Obama was a more liberal president. Just because he passed same-sex marriage, he was almost like in an Abraham Lincoln sort of way. He would have been fine not freeing those slaves. You know what I'm saying? It was very much a political pressure, and yeah, sure, that's going to be something he's going to be remembered for, but, he very could have easily not have done that.
Yeah, but here's my thing. I'd rather have a politician do the right thing to promote themselves than do the wrong thing in order to promote themselves. Because all that matters is what the effect is going to be. You know what I mean? And so, like, okay, he might have been doing, maybe he hates gay people, but the fact that he put it out there that we should be more accepting of them and that we should be putting these laws forward is all that matters, because that's what's going to affect people. I don't care if you give a shit what he thinks personally about gay people. You know what I mean? It's what he does, the actions that he puts out into this world. So, to speak to this point, yeah, you could say that a Trump presidency would make us more vigilant, because I think this is a Malcolm X quote. He said, like, I'd rather have the snakes that will hiss and let me know where they are than the snakes that put on a smile and try to make me feel like I'm not in danger. You know, and he was actually talking about liberals when he said that. the good-meaning liberals, you know. And he's saying, but I'd rather have the out-and-out, like, redneck racist Republicans, because, all right, at least I know that guy's an asshole. I can stay away from that. I know when he's talking shit, and I know when to fight back against that. You know, so maybe that could be a good thing in that sense, because, like, he's going to put forward some bullshit, and he's not really good about being discreet, so he's going to tell us, and we could be like, no, the people are uniting and making sure that shit doesn't happen. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, and this is a long fucking shot, but people are saying that, like, hey, it's a thing. So it's this article on change.org is basically saying there's still a shot that we could get a Hillary Clinton presidency, right? And the way that we do that is that, you know, the Electoral College still has to vote on December 9th. And keep in mind, this is going to be after the 2 court cases that Trump will have to go through in this November and December about the child rape allegation and the Trump University allegations. So they're basically saying, if we, you know, petition for this and, you know, put this forward, we can possibly, influence the Electoral College, the people in the who are representing the certain states, the swing states that ended up voting for him. We could have it be that some of them protest vote and, like, don't, like, vote for him to get in. Like, that's a possibility. And so, because the reason why he won in the first place actually was that more people actually voted for Hillary, but he got the Electoral College vote. Basically, the representatives, there were more representative votes for Donald Trump than there were for Clinton. But as far as people were concerned, there were actually more people voting for Hillary than there were for Trump. So he kind of won on a technicality. And apparently this is the second time this has happened, because the other time was with Bush in the last 16 years. So people are kind of going like, okay, we should try to do this, because on a technical level, more people didn't want xenophobia and racism and all of this shit to go with these policies than did. So, like, in this extreme case, we need to push for this. And there would be people who would tell you, oh, come on, it's ridiculous. Voter suppression, self-voter, depression or whatever, where you kind of, like, don't want to engage at all. But can we look at this year and how fucking crazy it's been? Can we, okay, first of all, we thought Trump's not going to run because that's crazy. Second of all, we thought Trump's not going to get the Republican nomination candidacy because that's crazy. And then we thought Trump's not going to win because that's crazy. And so is this really that crazy? I mean, like, the only difference between, in a couple of podcasts, this being something that I'm saying and people going, it's so ridiculous that he said that, and saying, oh my God, I'm glad, like, he was one of the people that pushed for that because now we don't have to deal with this fucking presidency, is whether or not you, the listener, decide to engage in this. So if you, the listener, think this is a cool idea, we could at least push for it and at least have one more fucking crazy batshit thing happen this year where we inspire these electoral college people to not go for Trump. So I just want to put that out there. I want to give us put the link in the description, actually, if we could. You know what I mean? Because it's like, at least. You know what I mean? Like, if it can't happen, then it can't happen, but we can at least put it out there, you know.
If you fucking voted for Trump and now there's people in your family, odds are younger people, more liberal and progressive people, they have every right to look at you as you've made a mistake. And honestly, I saw a post on Facebook about, like, people are blaming white men for this, and I just don't think that's right. Honestly, if you know racist white people and you're a white person yourself, we need to start holding these people accountable. Because, like, the only way we can get better as a civilization is education, honestly. That is the one step forward.
And through white people telling this to other white people. Because there are white people out there that are not okay with this shit. That probably voted for Trump. That aren't okay with this racist shit that we're seeing, if not popping up more, being more reported. They're not okay with it. And they didn't realize, maybe, that this came with that. And so maybe they're going to be more inclined to be like, because you're seeing the bubbling up of this racism, they're going to be, join arms with us and be like, okay, they weren't exaggerating. This could really happen. This could really go down like this. And maybe the exposing of this could inspire more white people to talk to it about other white people. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, a black person talking to a white person about this could always be excused as, oh, angry black man. Of course he's angry about this. But you have a white person telling it to you, is like, oh, whoa, what? Like, and that's not to say that you're stupid. That's not to say, like, oh, you just don't get it. But it's just like, when you're in your own bubble, like, things that, someone's saying to you just doesn't resonate as well as if someone who looks like who you are and is like, wait, you look like me and you also sympathize with him? Like, okay, I must be thinking through this wrong. Same thing with, like, problems that women go through. Pretty sure there are lots of things in the past that I was like, nah, it's not really like that. But when I had actual like guys that I knew telling me, like, no, this is real. Like, it makes you have to go like, okay, I have to consider this now. And it doesn't make you a bad person because, you just weren't listening. Just listen. And then go to those, women, go to those black people, and then just listen. Just hear what they have to say, So this is not me saying like, all white people, you evil folks, you need to kowtow and brr. No, it's just like, listen. Just listen. You know what I mean? And they're not saying you need to give up America or whatever, but just let people have their spaces, man. If there's something that like women want to talk about, just like let them have their space. Listen, don't immediately try to respond. Just listen.
I think a couple things. A lot of people are making the I don't know if you've seen the Samantha Bee clips from the episode from yesterday about comedians are not looking at a Trump presidency as like a gift for like creative material and shit like that. Like, we're all scared, we're all afraid, like I saw someone on Facebook be like, oh man, punk music is gonna get great again because remember how punk music was when Bush was in office and everyone was all angry? Man, music's gonna get angry again and people are gonna have so much to say. I have this one thing. You know how Obama looks now, right? Compared to when he took office?
Yeah.
Look at Donald Trump now. He looks like shit, okay? I'm just gonna say that. He looks awful.
This man gonna be dead.
Can you imagine, after the first year of, oh my god, what the fuck did I get myself into? He is gonna be a mess. To quote him, a mess. So sad.
The second day, he'll just like, all these people continually telling him the things that he has to do, and just like, oh my god, okay, never fucking mind. I didn't want to be president anyway. I just wanted to prove a point. Yeah, it was social satire or some bullshit.
When you have conservative, redneck, Republican voters lining out outside, making a wall around the White House because you didn't deliver on that wall.
And you know he's not going to.
You know we're not getting that fucking wall, dude.
And we're not. Dude, they're going to be 30 days in, and those white people are going to be angry as hell, saying, why are there still Mexicans living next to me? Why are there still Muslim folk living next to me? They're going to be so goddamn angry that he didn't completely just kick them out the first fucking day, like they really think he's going to do.
He only made so many promises. One was he was going to bring jobs back. That he's not going to bring jobs back. That is going to be the one that's going to piss off most people because, like we said earlier, I'm sure most of his supporters aren't racist. They were just desperate and they wanted someone to, quote, make America great again. But when he doesn't make America great again for them, he's going to have to answer to them. And the last thing I wanted to say before we get into the album review is for everyone that is really wanting Bernie to run again in 2020. While I would love if he did, my bit of advice is to look in your own local government for the next Bernie. And if you see the next Bernie, I want you to promote him or her. I want you to push them. And I want them to be the next Bernie. Or fuck it, be the next Bernie. Because if he's going to be 79 whatever in 2020 and he can't do it, we can't just be like, well, Elizabeth Warren, backup plan. There are plenty of people in your local government who are more liberal, more progressive. Like I saw Seth Meyers saw something like, there's plenty of other possible first women presidents out there. Like, just look around you, man. And if you see them, promote them on Facebook. Get eyes on them, because Bernie was a semi-obscure, independent senator for Vermont with no name recognition and almost took down the entire fucking establishment in 2015. And if he can do it, anyone can do it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, man, I cannot express how blessed we are right now to have the one, the only, well, technically the second, but she added another M. So it's the real life version of Sammus, the MC that we actually, whose album we reviewed a week or so ago, Pieces in Space, and gave it a glowing review. Sammus, how are you doing, man?
I'm pretty fucked up. I mean, this election has it like knocked the actual wind out of me. So, it's been hard. It's hard having something that I'm so proud and so excited about that's in the universe now. And then on the other hand, like realizing that we're in like the darkest of times. So it's been like up and down, up and down, up and down.
In this dark time that you had said, something like your album, it's a nice diversion. It takes your mind off things. We can't say too much more about the album. I think we've exhausted our praise. It's so incredibly awesome.
Childhood and what's the other joint? Nighttime have been like those two have been on constant rotation, and that usually never happens, even for albums that I'll like. Like I'll forget about them and be like, oh yeah, that was good, but yeah.
I gotta ask, at which point in the songwriting of Childhood did the Weezer interpolation come up?
I wrote the first verse, I would say, in April of 2015, and actually I wrote what is now the second verse first. But then I was like, I kind of want to introduce my family before I talk about all the things that I used to do as a kid, just because I actually, an interview that I did with Bandcamp came out today, where I talked a little bit about how I have this weird relationship with my African identity. Like I don't know how to talk about it in sort of a meaningful way. I feel like I'm like a bad African kid because I don't speak the traditional languages that my parents speak, and I don't have a super tight relationship with my family that's on the continent. So I wanted to find a way to like put that part of my identity into the song about me having this very happy, exciting childhood. So then I, wrote the first verse after that in order to do that. And then there was a space for the chorus. And I went through a few iterations of the chorus, but I kept coming back to the Blue album by Weezer is one of my favorite albums of all time. And it was something that I listened to as a kid. So it like brings me to a space of kind of when we would go on car trips, my older brother would play it. He played it at home. It was one of the first albums that I like really connected to as a child. So I kept kind of humming that every time I would play the beat. And eventually I was like, I think I have to go with this. I have to like do something with that. And it's kind of perfect because it's about getting away and going to a different place. The song that I pulled from, which is called Holiday. But in this context, the holiday is like reminiscing, basically.
So I hate to make you choose. I know it's like picking between children.
No.
I think you already know where I'm going.
I think you know what's coming. Yeah, I'm scared.
Blue album or Pinkerton?
Geez. Okay. Well, I think purely off like nostalgic value, I have to go with the Blue album. But when I think about the songs, geez. Can I get back to you that? I think Blue Album. I think it's just it's such a beautiful, wonderful project. Like from beginning to end, I think it's like the perfect album. But Pinkerton punches me in the gut when I listen to it. So it's hard to figure out which one takes the cake. I'm sorry.
And I gotta ask you one more opinion question since we're talking about childhood.
Yeah.
Favorite Nick tune?
Oh, Rocco's Modern Life for sure. Yeah, I loved Rugrats, but Rocco takes the cake.
Oh yeah.
I always toss up between Rocco and Ren and Stimpy myself.
Yeah.
No, Ren and Stimpy has great art, but after a while, it can be a little too ridiculous.
It was wild. Ren and Stimpy was a wild ass show. I remember watching it as a kid and being kind of freaked out. It pushed the boundary, definitely.
No, I remember
humor and other things.
Yeah, I remember watching it with my sister and being like, "Wait, should I be watching this? I feel like this."
It was kind of gross, a little bit weird and off. It was dangerous, I think, for kids. It was funny, but yeah, I loved Rocco's Modern Life because I think Rocco's Modern Life walked this middle line where I remember I got my sense of humor from Rocco's Modern Life because I liked how they made jokes. It was a little bit edgier than a Rugrats or a Doug. And I love the character of Rocco. He's this mild-mannered guy or mild-mannered Wallaby, and bad shit happens to him, but he kind of keeps going on in the face of it. And I just love it. And the art style is great too. Everything's sort of leaning to the side a little bit. I just love the whole.
Yeah.
You ever watch Reno 911? You know, the officer, the Carlos Alazraqui, the dude with the mustache? That's the voice of Rocco.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I now have this newfound respect for this show, for Reno 911. I mean, the show is great, but now I'm bump it into top 10.
I went to a show a couple of years ago when they were promoting one of the last seasons in my hometown. And the guy, they were doing a bit on stage. It was Carlos Alazraqui and the black dude, something Yarborough, the guy who was on the Boondocks. And he's like, somebody was talking about Rocco's Modern Life. I don't know what you're talking about. And then he just slips into the impression. I was like, wait a minute, what?
I would have lost it.
Yeah. He also did the Taco Bell dog, but that's neither here or there.
Oh my goodness. His range is so... It's an interesting resume.
Dude was busy in 95.
Very busy year for him, huh?
So I actually wanted to ask a couple more questions because I'm a lyrics guy, as Muse knows, and so I'm gonna be grilling you about these lyrics, right? So specifically things that are I just heard and I was just wait, I didn't immediately get what that meant. You had one lyric where you said, "Posting with my bros in Hiroshima."
Yes.
And I didn't know, did you actually go to Japan?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, my mom, she's the shit. So she's a professor, and she got a professorship at a university in Hiroshima. And so I went there. My family, we went there for the summer, and that was actually where I first kind of learned how to produce beats. We didn't speak Japanese, so we would kind of run around and do our thing.
You spoke through music.
Yeah, exactly. And so we spent a lot of time just kind of in our own little world. And my older brother, he had his computer there, his laptop, and he showed me how to use Reason during that summer. And I ended up making a whole bunch of music. So it's a really special moment in my heart because it's when I first had this musical awakening.
That's so dope. Okay, I did not know that question was going to lead to that.
Yeah, that's what that was.
And I don't think I've even said this on the show, but I'm working on compiling a Spotify playlist of our favorite songs from the albums that we've reviewed this year. And while I was going through that, it struck me. I was like, oh my God, we reviewed Infusion this year.
Yeah.
We're reviewing 2 Sammus releases in the span of the same year.
Yeah.
And it's I had the privilege of briefly speaking with you at MagFest when you were doing that hallway concert.
It was the Mega Manathon, a fundraiser.
Yeah. And we walked up, and I just looked at my fiance, and we were like, we need all of her stuff right now. And it was like, I'm out of all my like my CDs are all sold out or whatever. And we were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like it was such a touching performance, and I was so excited for the Infusion release. Now there's only 2 repeating songs off the new album, Pieces in Space, Perfect Dark and 1080p.
Yeah.
How much writing was between the EP and the album, and I guess how much was maybe like before and just like held over?
So the EP actually wasn't supposed to be a thing. So I didn't release anything in 2015 with the exception of like one song and maybe some features. And so I had been plotting throughout 2015 about what I wanted to do this year. And for me, I wanted to drop another sort of full-length album. But the more that I talked to people who, are invested in what I'm trying to do, the more it felt like that was just too much and like too soon almost. That since the last, project I had dropped before Infusion was Another M, which is a Metroid-inspired EP. And so in between that time and like where I was in 2015, I had a lot of new supporters, and I felt like it was important for me to like re-articulate what my perspective was, because I felt like, okay, I got a lot of people who came to me through the kind of nerdcore route, but, how will they engage with my shit that's not talking about Sammus the Intergalactic Bounty Hunter? So I wanted to do something that would introduce folks to what I'm about and then drop the sort of full-length project. So that was how the EP came up as an idea. So I kind of recorded the EP and the album almost at the same time. So I had, I would say, maybe half the album or a little bit more of the album recorded by the time I was ready to drop the EP. So some of the songs on the EP, I was like wondering whether I should put on the album or whether, so I was trying to make decisions about the album and the EP at the same time, which was hard, but I ultimately kind of focused on which songs had the highest almost like production value, and those pieces I felt like should be on the album, and the songs that I felt like were dope but just like weren't quite there yet, that was the stuff that was going to be on the EP. And so I put that all together in 2015 and a little bit of 2016.
Whoa, you're going to cut 1080p? What the?
Well, I knew that was one song that I was like, I'm going to put that, re-release that with like a feature or something else, just because my friend Open Mike Eagle, he's done that with a song called Qualifiers. I think he's put that on 2 or 3 projects. And so to me, once I saw that, I was like, okay, that's a thing that people can do. They could put a song on another project, and it's not like a cardinal music sin.
Right. Yeah, you figure out how it works in a different context of a different album.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, that explains that reference. So I was going to ask, how did the Jean Grey feature come about?
Yeah, so I follow Jean Grey on all of her platforms that you can follow her on, because she's the best ever. And I believe she either like tweeted or Facebooked that she was like, okay, I'm now going to be doing features, like message me for rates, talk to me about, whether I can do a feature on your project. And I freaked out. I was like, I have to have her on my project. She's in this space. She's writing for people. So I think I like messaged her on Facebook through her Facebook fan page, and nobody got back to me. So I started panicking. So I went on her Twitter. I didn't see anything there. And then I remembered that her manager or somebody who works with her sends out weekly newsletters. So I found the email address of the person who sent newsletters on her behalf and like messaged them like, please, can you put me in contact with Jean Grey? Please, I'm like, desperate. I need her to hear this. I need to have her work on this song with me. And so then she emailed me, and I obviously like my head exploded. And I sent her the track, and we talked about sort of the details of it. And she came back 2 or 3 days later and sent me that really powerful verse. And so that's how that happened. And I still kind of can't believe that this legend and ultimately someone who's paved a lot of the path for me is on one of my songs that I like the most.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I listening to it, like you hear like the phone call, and she's like,
Yeah.
this. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, and we were trying to think how to integrate her verse into the song too, because it was like I liked the song a lot. I didn't want to change anything. I felt like it was like perfect in its own right. So it's like, okay, how do we bring her verse in like a meaningful way so it doesn't just sound like plopped in or like dropped in?
Yeah, totally.
So that's where the idea for like the phone call or some kind of interaction came from.
Great, that's great. So can I ask? Okay, so why did you choose the name Sammus?
Yeah, so I picked the name Sammus for a few reasons. Actually, a friend kind of gave me the name Sammus as an idea, and I ran with it back in, I think, either 2009. And so I picked that name for two reasons. The first is that I love retro games. I think they're fantastic. And one of the kind of primary ways that I got into making music was that I love video game music. I've always just been fascinated and like it does something to me. And I can't put my finger on why that's the case, but ever since I was a kid, I just loved it. So it's a reference to my love of retro games, but also I produce all of my beats. And as I was coming up, I didn't think about making beats in gendered terms, but usually I would encounter someone who was like, oh, who makes your beats for you? Or, who helps you make your beats? And this would happen even after I was like, I'm a producer. It's like, how are you not hearing me?
Yeah, but seriously, who actually makes your beats?
Right. So I was frustrated by that and confused by it too, because it was like a lot of my male producer friends. I never heard people like questioning whether they were making their own beats. They would say they were a producer and that was it. End of conversation. So I picked the name Sammus because for those that know, when you beat the spoiler alert, when you beat the Nintendo game, you discover that Sammus, despite being covered up in an armor suit for the entirety of the game, is actually a woman. And I thought that was powerful, that moment, that aha moment when it's like, wait, I was a woman the whole time who was running around and destroying shit and just taking out all the bad guys. So I wanted to take on that same kind of representation.
Yeah, that was a woman that was making those ass kicking beats. Like,
yeah, I love that. I love that moment when it clicks for, and not just for like dudes or people who are like, oh, that's weird, but for like women who are like, wait, I can do that too. I can make beats too. I can like produce my shit. Like that's the moment that I'm like really get excited about.
Was Samus from Metroid one of the earliest type of like, I guess, example of representation where it was like, oh, okay, like I can't imagine, like when, like, is that something you played like as a child or like something you played later on, or were you into the retro games like in real time, or did you kind of like get into them retroactively, so to speak?
Yeah, so I played a lot of games when I was a kid. Like I'm a product of like the Nintendo SNES, like PlayStation kind of generation of gaming for sure. And yeah, it was powerful to me because I had a conversation with a friend about this, but as a girl growing up playing games, it was like I was so hungry for any kind of representation. So anytime there was a woman, I always picked Cammy, I always picked Chun-Li, You're always grasping for, like, when I remember playing Mario RPG and you could have Peach be a part of your party, and I was like, oh, you can play with her for once, or Mario Kart, like making sure that I always was picking the character that I felt like most resonated with me, which was challenging in some of those earlier games.
Right. Like when I played Tekken, the main character I would choose was Eddie Gordo.
Yeah, you pick the character that is like, this could kind of be me.
Yeah. So, in fact, you have a song on here called Perfect, Dark.
Yeah.
Which, that genius fucking song title.
Thank you.
In which you talk about, so first of all, like, when listening to the song, it made me think about this article that was talking about, like, how many Black women can you name that are characters in video games? And, like, it really made me take a second to be like, oh my God, I can't think of any.
It's crazy. It's like really, really crazy when you break it down in those terms. Like just absent from this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like Black women like don't exist. Like it's not like we just don't see that many. I don't know. Indian / Pakistani / Japanese girls. So of course we're not going to put them on our video games because you don't see that as much. Like, you know, someone who would be of all three of those origins. But literally, like, a black woman, like, it's not that rare in America. Why do we have nothing that represents that?
Yeah, it's kind of shocking, I think, when you break it down like that. And I hope that, like, we're in a moment when those things will change, but I still feel like, you know, representation is a thing that we're really gonna have to keep fighting for.
And I don't think it's one of those things where they're like, let's never show black women in video games. I think it's like, it's honestly one of those things where they just don't think about it. Yeah, like a lot of the developers aren't black women or have only seen like white male protagonists in video games, so that's just kind of their default. Which goes to another point that I wanted to bring up in the song where you talked about you first got into drawing and the first thing that you drew were like white people, basically.
Yeah, and that's part of kind of, I think, the inspiration for Perfect Dark was that even prior to wanting to make music, I wanted to have a cartoon series and a video game. So
we all do.
Exactly. So I made this cartoon that was like not even loosely based. It was like a clone of Dragon Ball Z, basically. And I remember drawing in that very much in the style of Akira Toriyama. And my characters, when I look back at them as an adult, I'm like, wow, these don't look like me at all. The main character of my series is this blonde-haired, blue-eyed white dude. Like, that's the guy who leads everybody, and then everyone else is sort of below that. And there's one black dude, and then even the woman of color, she doesn't remotely resemble me. You know, like I didn't see myself in the universe that I spent countless hours, like days, weeks, months, even like crafting. It's crazy to me that I couldn't even put one person that like remotely sort of resembled me. And so I think it was that realization when I was like, wow, that's the power of the media that we consume to like make us forget that we can be a part of these worlds, even for the people that look that way, you know?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a great moment on the album. Okay, so the name of the album is Pieces in Space. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the explanation for why it's called that?
Sure.
I feel like that question could have been simpler. I'm sorry. Why is the album called Pieces in Space?
That's okay. I have a problem doing that actually, as I've been answering a lot of interviews. Okay, good. But so the album title came about. It actually, I had this kind of existential crisis because I like to make a nod to Metroid when I put together my projects, but I don't want it to be the only thing. And I think it's part of this anxiety that I have in balancing my status as like a quote unquote nerdcore MC, but then I'm more indie MC. Like, how do I engage meaningfully with content that's not video game based, but also continue to show my love for it? So I struggled over the title because I couldn't think of a good thing that would like make a nod to Metroid, but not be so over the head as like, you know, my first album is called Mother Brain, which is pretty clear reference to Metroid. And so there's a part at the end of the video game where they ask for a true peace in space. And there's actually another artist named Maddie Myers who has a project called Peace in Space, but it's peace, like world peace. And so I wanted to think about what I was putting into the universe, and that I have anxiety about releasing a thing that's been with me for so long, these little fragments into the universe, like fragments of myself, of my experiences, of the conversations I have with people. And so that's sort of kind of the basis for the title, that these are the pieces that of myself that I'm releasing into the universe for you to consume and hopefully make sense of. And I'll leave it at that because I could get really long-winded.
No, dude, I want to hear this. Like, I love hearing the intricacies of what an artist is doing and stuff because it enriches the art, honestly.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that.
So I actually wanted to ask about the album cover. Like, how does that relate to the album title?
Yeah, so the cover was drawn by a friend of mine, and I sort of did some of the once I had that image of the woman, you know, me in the fetal position, then I kind of put some of the background, like the kind of blue backdrop for that image. I put that together. But basically, when I reached out to him, I was like, okay, at first I wanted the album cover to be a picture of me standing, or a drawing of me standing on a stage rapping to like all my friends. And so I wanted to draw, a whole bunch of my friends. And then it was coming down to the wire, and I felt sort of like that idea is too, like, I want to simplify this a little bit. So I thought about the thing that represents kind of being in your feelings the most. And to me, that's like being in the fetal position, which, I've spent quite a bit of time in the fetal position since the election results were so to me, that's the kind of position that represents, vulnerability. And so again, this idea of pieces in space is like I'm releasing these fragments into the universe. I can't kind of do anything about it, and that these pieces come from something so deep inside of me that I could only sort of create when I was in my little cocoon, that I could only make when I had kind of almost cut myself off from the rest of the world. So that's what that image, I think, represents to me, is the space that I was in when I was writing a lot of this stuff. I wasn't sort of seeking a whole lot of feedback or validation from anybody else. It was like, what do I think is dope? And and that's it. No noise, no sort of other opinions. I wasn't listening to a whole lot of other music while I was writing. I wanted this to be like 100% from my heart. So that's what that image, I think, represents.
Yeah, I think with nerdcore, there's always certain things associated with it. The like the nostalgia, referencing, and all of that. But especially with this new album, I think it really draws a line in the sand, because it's how do I say this? I find you incredibly brave.
Thank you.
Because I'm listening to Pieces in Space, and I myself have never experienced being a person of color, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I'm listening to this, and there's just so many things that like you just mentioned it a moment ago, like vulnerability. Like there's such an emphasis on keeping a stiff upper lip, and just how like focusing on your real life experiences, and just throwing that there's such like a horrible stigma with like seeking therapy.
Yeah, totally.
And just listening to songs like 1080p, where it's like, no, I needed help, and there's nothing wrong with admitting needing help sometimes, or not just completely negating your feelings. Like, feeling is okay. I say this a lot.
Yeah.
Feeling is okay. Crying is okay. Especially after the election, where it's like, I don't want to get too personal, but we had a few friends over, and we were just angry.
Yeah.
And people were drinking, and we were just saying all types of horrible things.
Of
and
course.
It's like, and then the next day on Facebook, you're trying to be strong for everyone else, and and just last night before bed, me and my fiance were just talking, and like things got heated, and we just started crying.
Yeah.
And,
oh my gosh.
Like we just hugged each other standing in the bathroom, and just hugged and cried for like 10 minutes, because it was like 3 days worth of dozens of emotions just all coming at once. And I love that not only are you a role model for well, I know there's language on the album, but let's not kid ourselves. Young people will listen to it anyway. Well, like I know just when we were doing the review, Darren said like, no, I'm making my niece listen to this because this is like a message she needs to hear. And it's just, I just want to like such a thank you from me and just so many others. It's just like, I don't know, like not many people, I can't name too many people that can give you an album that is that enjoyable. And like when we were talking about 1080p, Perfect Dark, Qualified, like when you think about it on the surface and you explain it to somebody, they're like, wow, that sounds really deep. And you're like, it is, but it's still fun, and it's still like, you can still enjoy it for like as an art and not just, you know, like a think piece or something like it actually.
I actually had a. I'm sorry. You're gonna say something?
Oh no, that's fine. I just wanted to say thank you so much for that, and that's sort of the ultimate compliment in that. You know, it's this tension, I think, as an artist who wants to like be about something that you don't want to get, you never want to be too preachy or have it be, like you said, digested like you would digest a think piece. And so there's always this line of like, how can I still be playful or thoughtful? And so I'm just really happy that aspect of my identity came through, that I like to laugh, you know, even though there are all of these crazy things going on in the world, that too is a part of the experience. And that can be a revolutionary act, just enjoying yourself and having fun and flexing on the mic, you know, like all of those things are important.
Yeah. You had one song, I think this was today. No, this was Genius, excuse me, where you had the lyrics like, she's chock full of knowledge, yet how can she acknowledge it? God forbid she talk up her accomplishments. They'll posit that her front lobe is probably pumped with fillers like some collagen. And like, just like, I feel like this is sort of speaking to like, you know, any minority has to be meek in a way, and if they aren't, then they're the what we consider flaws, which would be like partially pride, gets exaggerated.
It's a threat. It's definitely a threat. Like, I mean, the primary example to me, and I reference him in the song, and I have a whole song called Kanye West, but you know. He's a polarizing guy, and he says some stupid shit. But the thing that he like taught me was that I can revel in my intelligence, that's okay, and that sometimes what I think is intelligence isn't going to look the same way that other people sort of frame what it means to be smart. So the song talks about like, you know, we have these barometers of intelligence, like the SATs and all of these kind of tests that actually mean nothing in terms of the context of how smart or thoughtful or interesting a person is. And so, yeah, I think that there's this tension that when someone from a minority group decides to own their brilliance, that's definitely a threat.
A lot of people recently have been talking about the phrase unapologetically black.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what that means to me. Unapologetically is like the key part of that phrase, that it's like, oh no, I'm loving this shit. Like,
go on.
Oh no, that's it.
and part of that was actually something interesting that I thought about. I've been doing a series on banned cartoons and cartoons from the 50s and 60s and 40s that were like using black caricatures and stereotypes and stuff, and we're exaggerating them and sort of making a mockery of like black culture and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, it's like, you know, I'm sure like there were some mannerisms and some ways that people say things that people were actually saying back then that correlate to what's in these cartoons. But these people who are, you know, making the cartoons, they're white and they don't really have the sensitivity of really knowing that culture. So when they use it, it ends up looking just like a joke. But the problem is, but the problem is when that becomes the representation, when the only representation have of black people is an over exaggerated thing that looks like just supposed to be a mockery of black people, then the idea is that to be black is, to be respectful in black is to denounce that culture that these white people see as a joke. And that's what I like about this new movement that's sort of like, I'm going to do this thing and I don't care if you stereotype it. I don't care if you think it's like this. I'm doing it because I don't care about what you think of my representation of me. And you brought up AAVE. And I didn't even know what that was. But I swear this was leading to a question.
That's okay. I can riff off what she said just in terms of speaking to that I too am really excited about where things are going for I think speaking to this idea of like stereotypes that especially I think for like, you know, middle class blacks, there's always been this like rejection of certain aspects of blackness because, you know, taking that on means that you are playing to the stereotypes of who we are. But the reality is that we shouldn't give two fucks about people think about the things that we like. So yeah, we can listen to ratchet ass shit and listen to Common. That's okay. Like it doesn't have to be stigmatized that people like to twerk or what. Like those things are equally as important to our wholeness. And just because they're the things that media often like zeroes in on and tries to like paint as like the only narrative of people of color, doesn't mean that we should be ashamed of it. We should be ashamed of the media for doing that.
Yeah, actually, I want to speak to a point. So there's the aspect of just sexuality in general, right? And but we might be getting into some touchy subject matter. So if there's anything you don't want to like answer, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
But just to hop into it, like, okay, so there's the idea of twerking, right? Just like ass shaking. You have stuff like, and I'm not like pitting you against or anything, but like that, but like just like the Nicki Minaj Anaconda video, where it's just like all ass shaking all the time.
It's a lot of ass. It's a lot of ass for sure.
And it's like, that's cool, like in like by itself in a vacuum. But when you look in the wider scope of this is the biggest hit from the biggest Black female artist, and that's the main thing we're seeing, it's kind of like, damn it, like really, you're just gonna boil us down to that. But what I like about your content is that it kind of reminds me of Missy Elliott in a way. And I don't know if you take that as a compliment or not, but I mean, I was going to say, it's like, because I do.
No, she's so dope.
But there's just like this sort of, when you watch her videos, yeah, there's booty shaking, like, and there's sexuality, but there's also like a sequence where she's like playing Mega Man. There's also a sequence where she likes like old school hip hop. And so what I like about your music especially is that like, especially the music video, what was it? Oh God, this is my favorite one. Living After 30.
Time Crisis, yeah.
Yeah, Time Crisis. First of all, another perfect video game reference title.
Thank you.
Like, how the hell are you doing this? But yeah, just to the point of there's not a complete departure from sexuality in and of itself, because I think you would agree that would be a sanitization of what it means to be who you are. But there's an inclusion of it, but it's not just saying that's all that you are. And even in the video, you kind of see that, like you're in the bathtub and it's all, sexy and stuff. But, but it also cuts to like the art pieces and you hanging out with your friends. And so, like, I don't know. Once again, I'm trying to formulate this into a question. But basically what's your, I don't know, thought process when it comes to writing about sex and things like that, especially song about sex?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's complicated with Nicki Minaj because I value the space that she takes, and I value her sort of like raunchy, unapologetic, the way that she just doesn't give a fuck. That's important to me. And it's been important to me in my development as an artist, because I think a few years ago, I might have held my nose up at that and been like, oh, that's disgusting, or that's trash. And her existence in the rap world has, I think, made me refocus my priorities around what's important. Because I do think that ownership of our bodies and learning to love our bodies is really, really important for Black women. So I salute her for that. But I also, it's complicated, because like you said, what she does is not consumed in a vacuum. So she's a person that I think I will continuously try to make sense of and appreciate for taking up the space that she does, but also knowing that that's not a lane that I necessarily feel the most comfortable in. But I did want to write Song About Sex explicitly because I wanted to respond to folks who were like, who were like, I'm glad that you don't do what Nicki Minaj does, because it felt like people were saying, well, I'm glad you're not a sexual creature. I'm glad that you don't think that sex is important. And I don't know if that frustrated me, because it was like, like I said, I value what Nicki Minaj does and how she talks and her being a sexual creature, but also that's a part of my life. I don't, if I'm going to paint a picture of myself, I need to paint a picture of the fullness. So that's the kind of starting point for the song. But as I started writing it, I was less, I think, interested in proving a point that like, yeah, I like sex too, and more interested in talking about how, a lot of the experiences that women have with sex are really fraught and are mixed up with like really awful ideas about kind of consent and things like that. So it morphed. Initially, the song was going to be like, I love having sex, sex is great. But it eventually kind of turned into this conversation about how dangerous some of these spaces can be for women who want to explore their sexuality.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So can we talk about the last couple of bars or?
Yeah. I mean, so I, again, sort of used this project to talk about things that I haven't really expressed. And so even with 1080p, I had, my friend wrote an article about this for the LA Times. And in the article, he's like, I was really surprised because we're close friends, but, Sammus never revealed that she was going through this to me. And so a lot of my friends are finding out about things that I've experienced through my music because I feel more comfortable sharing those parts of my life through that medium. But I wanted to, I think I put the last couple of bars in there, which sort of detail, sexual assault. I put it in there because I wanted, partially to speak about my experience, but I've had so many conversations with so many women who have reflected that same experience, that it's actually disconcerting. That I don't know if I could say the majority of my friends, but definitely half of the women that I consider like close friends have revealed kind of experiences of being coerced or even physically having to deal with a sexual assault. So I put that in there to, I think what's the word I'm looking for? To personalize the song, to make to root the song in the fact that these are things that happen to real people. That it's not, when we talk about rape culture, or we talk about any consent or any of these ideas, I think people can intellectualize them and be like, okay, that's a thing. That's how this works. But I wanted it to be more than just, here are my ideas about this thing, and more like, this is what it's like, or this is what it does to a person, to a human when they're experiencing that.
Yeah, like an artist has to straddle that line between just teaching you and trying to make you feel the
right.
moment.
Yeah.
And shit, I forgot where I was going with this, but
That's okay.
but yeah, so it didn't. That wasn't the intention. It wasn't trying to get to this moment. It morphed into this moment, basically.
Yeah, and that's how I think a lot of, for me at least, the best songwriting comes from that flexibility of maybe starting somewhere but being open to going somewhere else in the process of writing the thing. So that's how that song came about. And
you also like earlier in the verse, you kind of talk about what they refer to as hotep niggas.
Yes, I did.
So I kind of like how your hip hop, like, okay, so I like Childish Gambino, but he speaks to me in a way, but there's a lot of times where I listen to his music and I there's still the misogyny that's kind of there, and it's like, it's like, all right, I get what you're feeling. I know that you like girls and stuff like that, but it's like, come on, man, at least sound like you give a shit about,
like that. Have to say it like that, because it's like you said, like, I fuck with you, like I fuck with your music, like you don't have to make stuff that's like actively harmful to me or anybody else.
Exactly. Like there's a way to talk about sex without demeaning people.
Exactly.
And I think the way you talk about sex never sounds exploitative. Yeah, and I feel like it's a really delicate line, but like I think it's worth it to cross. Now, what I like about this song in particular is that it has this sort of, I don't know, intersectionality between, being, just your music in general. The identity of your music has this intersectionality between being pro-black and being, I guess, like feminist, pro-women, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it sucks because sometimes it feels like it's either one or the other with a lot of music that comes out by people that I'm more likely to identify with. It's like, okay, this is pro-black, but you still call women bitches. And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that. That's basically what your perspective through life kind of gives us, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the value really is in your music, because yeah, and I feel like I'm telling you what your music is, but like that's
dope to hear.
yeah, but that's how, as a listener, that's how I receive it. It's like, oh, good, I can have this thing that can be pro-black, and this thing that like lets you know that sexuality is this whole thing, and it's not just this little sliver that's this part. And sure, you can enjoy that every now and then, but like, come on, like you got to give me more than that, you know.
I think it's, I appreciate the perspective of intersectionality. I think that's like the most important value, I think, or one of the most important values for me in making my music is like, okay, who will be uplifted by this, or who is going to connect with this, and like in my mind, I wanted to make sure that like, nerds and geeks can find sort of solidarity, that women, that Black women can really have someone that's going to create safe space for them, that queer folks can feel like, okay, she's not going to say something that's going to hurt me. I think that it's so hard, I think, being a consumer of music when you don't know if someone's going to say something that that demeans you. You know what I mean? It's like, it sucks. Yeah, totally. It sucks being out, or even in your home and playing something and being like, wow, this person like actively hates me, or doesn't like, like, wow, this person I'm caping for, that I'm like here to support, like couldn't give a fuck about me or anybody who looks like me. So those are the things that I'm always thinking about when I'm putting music together.
Right. It's like when I listen to Eminem, it's like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, it's cool that you're a dope spitter and you're spitting all these ill lyrics, but then you say shit disparaging. Then you say shit that's disparaging about women. Then you say shit that's disparaging about gay people. It's like, man, like I could imagine if there was a white rapper that like, yeah, he's a dope rapper, but then he talks shit about Black people. Like, right. Yeah, it's like, I'm as big as the lips of those Black people. I'd be like, okay, I can't listen to this.
Like, this so like, I could, right.
Like, so I completely understand when there are people that are like, no, I don't fuck with Eminem. Now, speaking of being lyrical as shit, don't get it twisted, audience. Like, take away all the fucking, like, intersectionality and all this smart, important, heady shit. She's still a fucking spitter. So, because, like, every line is, like, multisyllabic with dope punchlines. And it's like, it feels like there's never a line wasted. So I want to know, like, what's your inspiration for your style?
That's a great question. So I think one of the areas that having or pursuing a PhD and like having a master's has helped me is that I care a lot about language. So it's like I approach hip hop from the same perspective as like a research paper, or like a thing that I really want to make sure that it's like that everything, like you said, that no word is wasted, and that every word is intentional, which is a thing that I've kind of learned through the process of graduate school in my writing, to make sure that like what I'm saying, I don't have extraneous sentences, that they're there for no purpose. But in terms of kind of like internal rhymes and things like that, I used to listen to a lot of Mad Villain.
Nice.
And I think also Homeboy Sandman is a really good artist lyrically. He's like an interesting guy to listen to, because he doesn't I don't feel like he subscribes to certain ideas about how a bar should be configured. Like, he's okay with silences, for example. Like, he doesn't have to be going all the time. So he's like strategic with his flow, which is a really interesting, I think, way to think about rapping. That you
what's this guy's name?
It's Homeboy Sandman. He's a rapper. He's from New York City, and he's definitely one of my bigger influences for this project. And Open Mike Eagle is the other kind of dude that I think really has informed that. But outside of those kind of folks, a lot of my desire to do internal rhymes is that, and to rhyme in the way that I do, is that it's fun. It's like super fun to play with words and make words do things. It's almost like a puzzle. It's like a game. Like, what word can I use that has the right amount of syllables, that also like carries the story forward, that rhymes with these other words? Like, it feels very much like a puzzle. And so when you get that, it's like there's a euphoria when you figure out what that exact word is that fits.
I love it.
I wanted to talk about just the term nerdcore for a second because we're talking about all these different things, and even talking about, like you're saying, with multi-syllabic words and all this, and you're trying to paint this picture. While nerdcore is so specifically, like, it's been painted with this very broad brush of, like, this is all, this is nerd shit. So much other stuff. Like, even if there weren't references on this album to other things, like you're saying, like, it's more, okay, hold on. I know where I was going here. Like, the vocabulary on your album, you can tell there's more effort than, say, like something on, like something of maybe like Lil Wayne's or whatever. Not to exactly put him down, but like it's targeted towards a different audience. But what I've noticed so much is that nerds, quote unquote, like, you think nerds talk about like comic books, video games, and like that, like that's a nerd. But I'll be at work and I'll hear people talk about like sports, and they'll be like rattling off these sports stats, and it's like, dude, you're sounding pretty nerdy right about now. Yeah. and like, just like this week on the actual album review, we're talking about Czarface.
Yeah.
And I mean, besides the whole like superhero supervillain thing, almost every other song on that album has wrestling references in it. And even to like go all the way back to like Sugar Hill Gang and shit. Even fucking Rapper's Delight references Superman and Lois Lane. It's like, nerd shit seems to just have its roots in hip-hop, so to speak.
Definitely. In fact, even speaking like Wu-Tang Clan, their whole thing was that they watched these, 70s blaxploitation and like kung fu movies that no one else knew about. You know. So, well, basically, my point would be that like everyone's saying, "Oh, nerdcore rap," but it's just like that's just kind of been hip-hop for a while.
It's just rap. Yeah, and I mean that's a thing that I have been trying to make sense of, because of course I didn't start off thinking I want to be a nerdcore rapper. I just was rapping, and then the status as being a nerdcore rapper was like given to me. It was like attached with the stuff I was doing, largely because I did a project with Mega Ran, and he's kind of like a nerdcore sort of artist, another person who's like walking the line. And so I've had this weird contentious relationship with the term nerdcore, because on the one hand, I think it's awesome that I've been able to be identified with this like subgenre of hip hop where people are just like geeking out and like doubling down on their nerdy geeky selves. I think that's awesome. And is definitely a space that should be like cultivated, but I also feel like it has the potential to boil down what I'm doing to, like you said, that in these other projects that you just named, or with these other artists, it's a part of their identity, but it's not the fullness of who they are, you know?
Yeah. Sorry. I was gonna say, like, Wu-Tang Clan, you think of them as just like gangster rappers, but like half of their nicknames were like comic book names, like Ghostface Killer's Iron Man.
Exactly. And I think that's dope, and I kind of like that they're just MCs, that the qualifier of being a nerdcore MC isn't there. But it's a thing that I don't know quite what to do with, because with the kind of Alex Trebek, quote unquote scandal that happened with nerdcore, it was fun to have. It was fun and funny to have people like, reach out to me and be like, "Oh my God, have you seen this?" Like make a response or whatever. It was interesting to be part of the discussion. But I'm also, I'm not stressed about it. Like my identity wasn't, at least for me, I didn't feel like I was being called into question by Alex Trebek making a kind of snarky comment, because I know that I make a whole bunch of shit. Some of it is like nerdcore proper, some of it isn't.
What I think is so great, and it's definitely cause and effect, because in the past couple of years, people aren't buying albums. So you got people like Taylor Swift, who I think was like one of like a very small handful of people last year who had an album that sold like over 1 million copies and stuff like that. And the whole thing of like the physical media and people actually paying money for things, not just buying singles. What that has given us is the opportunity for people like yourself, like you're charting.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me.
Like it's almost every other week I'm seeing like Megaran is charting, MC Chris is charting, Ninja Sex Party is charting,
right.
And it's like
now that's open. It is cool. Like when I think about that, it's like, oh wow, that like some person out there will see my like raps about Black nerd problems and like and you know, it's not the only validation. I think validation comes from having support from awesome people, but it is a form of validation to have like Billboard have to recognize or like present your shit along with all of the other kind of artists who are doing stuff. So I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited to represent, you know, geeks and nerds and Black folks and women and you know, whomever else, queer folks in this like journey to create new spaces for hip hop artists.
All right, like they can't deny it. They can't deny it.
yeah. Like we have a stage at South by Southwest. You know, like I love being the first person to have been referenced in terms of nerdcore for a publication. Like I love being the entry point for people to know that there's a genre of music where people are like specifically talking about games and cartoons and comic books.
Yeah, I didn't really know exactly where to cut it off either, and like where our fanboying would limit, or how long, or where it would find itself. But yeah, I can't thank you enough, not only for just joining us, but for the music for the last few years, and just couldn't be more excited to see where you go from here, and just how incredibly proud we are that you're signed. That was that blew us the fuck away when we read that, because again, like I just for the first time ever heard of you the first time we had seen you at MagFest, and it's like this has been as much of a shit like 2016 has gotten such a horrible reputation, but it's been so great for like a handful of people.
Yeah, and that's when we were talking at the beginning, and I was saying it's been ups and downs. Like while like the kind of worldview is like horrible and scary and terrifying, like in my little circle and my little network and amongst the people that I know who are creating great art, it's been a fucking awesome year. So it's a weird time to be alive.
I had one more it wasn't like one more question, it was just a question among the other things, but we got into such like important topics that it felt really stupid to go back to. But okay, you had one lyric where you said like, you need a team that's great, you should nix Stonecutters.
Yes.
What was that a reference to? So
there's a Simpsons episode where there's like a cult, and they're just a bunch, they're like nuts. And the cult is called Stonecutters. And so I was basically saying, like, get away from any team that's going to have you doing crazy shit, which is essentially what Stonecutters is. So you can look it up. It's an episode of The Simpsons from a while back. I don't know how many seasons deep The Simpsons is at this point, but I think it was still during the 90s when that episode came out.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I Googled it and I was like, wait, the only thing I can find is like The Simpsons. There's got to be something else. That is...
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. Oh, Homeboy Sam there was the dude that was featured on The Weirdo. So okay.
Yeah. It's all making sense.
No. Yeah, no, his flow is very interesting. In fact, all the guest verses do not feel wasted at all. They all always feel like there's such different variations of what's going on. Like Latasha Altidore.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she had a great fucking guest verse on the first song.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guest instrumentalist as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it felt like every time someone was included, it wasn't just like, you know, a lot of albums you'll hear like, and we have a second verse that's by somebody else just because we wanted to have a second verse by somebody. Everything always feels like, and now we're twisting it up to do something different here, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. That makes me so happy because this was the first project where I really cultivated a lot of features. It's been an anxiety of mine because, I had kind of a chip on my shoulder. I always wanted to be like, this is my song. I got to prove myself. But finally, I think I've put out enough work that I don't really have to operate by that sort of standard anymore. So I'm really happy that the people that I got, like, they really came with it. They did interesting, weird things, and they offer like a nice kind of contrast to the way that I put music together. So yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about that. I'll let them know.
And another really minor thing. So the Mayhem music video.
Yeah.
There's a part where like you get to I think it's the chorus, and it's like, we don't need a chorus, and like the words are there, but you don't say it. Was there like a meta joke there? Or?
Yeah, so Mayhem, I really like value that song in terms of expanding my mind, because I wrote, like, what I usually do, my writing process is to do the verses before the chorus. I don't usually come up with hooks before I have the verses put together. So I put the verses together and I couldn't think of a compelling hook. And I remember sitting there and thinking, I don't have to write a fucking hook. Like, it's totally fine to just leave this space open. Like, that's my prerogative as an artist. And so the kind of like chorusless chorus is I guess kind of like a meta joke, but the most important part of that aspect is the most important aspect of not having the chorus was me pushing back against norms about what a song is supposed to sound like.
Going into the album review this week, it's a Patreon request, am I right?
Yes. Fuck, now I gotta get their name. Hold on.
I thought about that as soon as I said it. He was like, he doesn't have that shit in front of him, does he?
Look at me.
Look at you.
Look at myself.
You just need to have a wall of mirrors in front of you. Constantly and forever. Look at you.
Jared Schreiner requested Every Hero Needs a Villain by Czarface.
So I got a funny little story for you.
Okay.
I looked on Spotify, and I saw Czarface, and don't worry, at first, I listened to the wrong album.
I knew it. See, I didn't think they had more than one album either.
I listened to the brand new one.
Yeah.
And I got all the way through, and I loved it. And then I checked your message, and it was like, Every Hero Needs a Villain. I was like, oh, all right. Well, you know what? That's fine. I don't mind listening to another Czarface album. And in fact, after that, I listened to the oldest one. So it got my eyes, my ears turned to Czarface, and otherwise I probably wouldn't have. For whatever reason, I just never really thought about old Czarface. But I'm really glad that we got the review, because that was great.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that I haven't heard of this. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? These guys
you are Mr. Wu-Tang, dude.
I know. These guys put out like 3 albums in the last like fucking 2 years. Somehow, it just never got to me. Fucking Inspector Deck, Esoteric, and 7L. Inspector Deck is the one member from Wu-Tang. But oh my god, does this feel like what the new Wu-Tang album should fucking sound like, man. Like, holy shit. Dude, Inspector Deck has so much fucking swag. Like, this is like what I would hope Jay-Z would sound like by 2016. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It is that level of just sophistication, just like genius, and just fucking nerdiness also. Just like all the comic book references. Oh my god. This album, not one wasted fucking moment. Wow, what was that one lyric that homeboy said about, like, still it's all about green, like Hal Jordan? The fucking, you talk about green, son? No, you talk about green, son? I'm Hal Jordan. Like, the flow is fire, dog, no Dalmatian, no salvation. And fucking just, lyrics that just fucking blow you away. He says, he's like, with 2 bars, I kill your 5-man group. They got a 3-word vocab like I am Groot. Oh my god, this could also be an MF Doom album. Also, he appears. But it's like with the samples and like the fucking, the references to old, like, the superhero cartoons and shit. And the, what happens in here? Oh, like, I don't know if it's like his kids or something like that, but they like randomly talk about like nerd shit, like who shot first. And they're like,
oh,
was such a great moment.
Can I talk about that for a second? With fucking Red Alert?
Yeah.
Okay, dude. This is a weird as fuck way to end a song. So, not only do you have two kids arguing about who shot first between Han Solo and Greedo from episode 4, it then ends with an Ashens sample. Who does, he's a British YouTuber, or I know he's at least from the, I don't know if he's exactly British. I know he's across the pond. And he reviews, like, shit toys and gadgets. And at the very end of the song, you hear him go like, "Oh, so what do we have here? This is some shit, actually." And like that's him like reviewing an action figure.
Nice.
And it's like, "Oh, it actually looks like he's got like an old-fashioned camera on a stick, if I'm honest." And this is how the song ends. And I don't know what video that's from, but I'm like, who the fuck thought to sample Ashens? That's insane. As a fan of MF Doom, I feel like I've been doing myself a grave injustice by sleeping on Inspector Deck this long, especially as a Wu-Tang fan. I never really thought much about like looking into Inspector Deck, but so now we got an Inspector Deck album as this. You don't even really know if he's a hero or a villain, which I think is pretty cool. That he's pretty ambiguous with that. And yeah, it's like it's got amazing beats. It's so much fun. It's so bouncy, and like it's got the bragging in there, and it's got the occasional like ways he'll fuck you up, but like not to the point where it's like ugh. Like every song is different, and just I feel like a shitty reviewer because I can't really put it into words, but like another point I'll give him, which is something I've talked about on the show before, is how often rappers will reference wrestlers and they only seem to reference like the top 3 or 4 most well known. This guy goes pretty deep with his wrestling references, and just how in some of the songs he'll sample like 80s wrestling commentators. Like, dude, and like old interviews. That's so fucking cool. I know it's not on this album, but on his or actually it might have been on this one. Like at the the song fuck. I don't have it open. Hold on here.
There's the deviating septums.
Dude, that one was great. Yeah, it was from an LOD interview. We snack on danger and dine on death. Like, oh, it was so great. But I think it was the song Lumberjack Match, which again is a wrestling reference where it starts like, "Ladies and gentlemen, you're world tag team champions," and just goes in. It's like, this is so good. I just I know you. This is on the other one, but he has a song with Ghostface, and halfway through it goes like he gets the tag, and like it switches. It's like this is such a great way of using wrestling shit, and it's like it's so well thought out. So I know I'm not saying so much about this album itself, but Czarface as a concept, as a character, as a rapper, check out everything this guy has done. It's all so great. Yeah,
it is so fun. It's got the balance of like gangsta battle rap shit mixed with like, you know, silly fun like references to comic books and shit. And it's just, it pulls you in, man. Like, and to think that this is the second album. Like, you know, usually when a group of people that are like, you know, a disparate group or whatever, when they come together for like their first LP, that's the one that's really strong, and the second one is kind of like, I like the first one better. Like, but this is the second part, like, and it's still awesome. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, holy crap, this is a whole bunch of fun. I mean, there's not like a lot of subject matter. There's nothing like really important or anything like that on this album. But it's battle raps and all these fun little things that happen in between that keep you engaged just as a listener. And it never gets like boring where it's like, another song about like, you know, ripping rappers apart. No, like the beat work is always so different and innovative and fun that like you never get bored. So like, dude, I'm telling you, man. You got like even when I saw like the 8-minute track, I was like, oh boy, here it comes. Just the fact that it like switched up 3 times and was like these 3 different songs that just went these different ways. Like it never felt like another song. It was like, oh shit, here's more.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh, dude, I forgot one of my favorite lines from Junkyard Dogs, which again, Junkyard Dog, a wrestler, also Sergeant Slaughter, another wrestler. He goes, loud in person, I'ma shoot first to like Kyrie goddamn, Kyrie Irving. Loud in person, I'ma shoot first like Kyrie Irving. These silly raps getting no claps like Miley twerking. Like, dude, this is fucking really. Oh, and I personally fucking popped where he goes, God, this is gonna be hard. Czarface nominated at the Comic-Con, drops bombs, delivering it hot like Papa John's, popping Dons, burning blue flowers with Dr. Octagon, like, fuck's sake.
And dude, just when it first starts and you hear that massive beat come in, and he literally goes, yo, there goes the speakers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit. Like, that's how you fucking start. Oh, and then he says like, it's like, how do we body him, rebel? It's like a broken elevator, wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
No, wait, let me say that again. And then this one lyric where he says, how we body him, rebel, it's like a broken elevator, wrong on so many levels. Dude, there's so many dope rhymes. Fly shit, shrunken like a little sweater. Yeah, we tight knit, tight kicks, flow holy water like Christ spit. Like, oh my God. And then even my piss stream cuts toilets in half at a speed that it takes an android to do math. Like, holy God. There's so many dope lyrics. He says, what is it? What is it? You trying to get your grown man on like a tomboy. He says, I shatter legions in arenas, blood splattered screeches. So many lines you think I'm trafficking African zebras. Like, what? And he says, I smack lames to snack on brains. I'm that strange. I pull dimes like I'm trying to make exact change. What? No, sir, I'm no poser. My motto is bread over beef. You can call it samosa.
These rappers set the bar low like Peter Dinklage at the gym. Come on.
Fucking Jizz's whole verse, where it's like halfway through it became about like, it's like the underworld of like crime, but he compared it to like literally under the earth, like lava and magmas and earthquakes and shit. I was like, what? He's like, the lowest and hottest places on earth, large pools of sulfuric acid marks the turf, giant land masses that pull away, a crack in the crust, no trust and the killers are willing to pay, eruptions for years in lakes of lava, huge domes of rock on the block that's from the plaza. I was like, holy fucking shit. Oh my God, you guys have to listen to this.
I don't even know how much more we can say. It's very, like you said, there aren't really too many themes. There isn't that I'm on the road, I'm staring out the window, I'm longing for my family. None of that. This is straightforward, and it hits you and keeps hitting you. Doesn't fucking stop hitting you. It's so good. I love Czarface. I love Czarface so much that I listened to the other 2 albums and loved those just as much. I'm gonna have to go back and give old Inspector Deck as Inspector Deck more of a shot, because I feel like I've been sleeping on him, not really giving him much love. But wow, so good. Yeah, if you're an MF Doom fan, this is definitely for you. If you're a fucking fan of, like you said, the whole battle raps, the amazing sample work, beat work, lyrics, this album really has it all. There aren't too many points where it's like, it doesn't drag on at all.
Yeah, dude, I gotta give it the perfect 5, man.
As do I. I gotta definitely give this a 5. This shit is right up my alley. Thank you so much for checking us out on the Going Off podcast. The Czarface album, 5 out of 5 from both of us. Something we've been doing a good bit lately. Big thanks to Sammus for stopping by, giving us the interview. Check out her album, Pieces of Space. If you haven't already, it's on Billboard. It's charting. big things happening for our girl Sammus. Check it out on Spotify, Bandcamp. Pick up a physical copy, all that good shit. And if this is the first time listening to the show, check out all our old episodes on YouTube and SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/goingoffpodcast. And until next week, I'm Muse.
And I'm Rap Critic.
Auf Wiedersehen.